The writings of philosopher Prince Israel Zaar. Title: God, Guns, and War are wholly incompatible. I now read, God, guns, and war are wholly incompatible, but sometimes still necessary for defense. Some say the war must be fought. The reasons why, we still don't know. Isn't there a probable cause and an immediate cause that leads to a course of war that can be avoided and resolved? Isn't war something so deadly, costly, and consequential that you need not risk lives, capital, standing, reputation, economy, and world economy or world order for a war that must be fought that shouldn't be fought, or for a war that was fought that should have been fought? Isn't war so scary and dangerous that it can't be waged for a political strategy, conspiratorial dogma, or for a hallelujah vision of the world, that a war of Armageddon or a doomsday war will bring in a new civilization or some deitinal world order of a chosen people to rule over the rest of the world? If wishes, fictions, beliefs, systems, or vision must be put to test, then isn't it wise that wars shouldn't be the experimental variable, that lives lost for some unbelievable beliefs cannot come back to life again in this human life of matter and fluid? Isn't it very dangerous and apathetic of life to wage wars just for political maneuvering? Worse of it invoking God or some patriotic virtuousness? If God is universal and must be imposed as universal and oppressed into the entire world, or must be spread around the whole universe as a civilizational mission or purpose, then wouldn't that God be the source of peace, not war? The source of love, not hate? If that God that all must believe in or buy into is so good and forgiving and kind and compassionate and loving and fair and just and peaceful and humane and empathetic is said and true, then why must that God go to war or have a chosen people? Why must that God accept or ordain discrimination or the suffering of particular others? Why must wars be waged in the name of that peaceful God? Why must hate, cruelty, inhumanity, slavery, colonization, savage brutality be made in the name of that God? Why must that God be owned by a particular race of people, of a particular skin tone, of a particular culture and civilization? Why must others be so entitled to that God or have authorship, autonomy, agency, and control over that God? Why must that particular God do as they say, think as they say, will as they say, punish or forgive as they say? Why must that God be there by their side, wage war on their behalf, kill on their behalf, or commit mass atrocities on their behalf? Why must that God pay a blind blessing eye, BBE, to all their gross inhumanity and callous egregious disregard, CED, to the life of fellow men and women or to the sanity of life itself? Why must that God ignore the lives of innocent children who will die or be casualties of war? Why should that holy God allow himself or herself to be used by others to hurt others? Is God the God of hurt or the God of war? Or that God is made up to justify actions and absorb guilt? Isn't why good people are sometimes suspicious of those unclean souls using God to commit mass atrocities? Those hypocrites of war, those bloodthirsters, those who will justify a war, play down its consequences, rationalize its cruelties, and falsely claim that God is on their side or that they are waging a war in the name of God. What God can you wage a war on his or her behalf? When and how, in what language, tone of voice did God speak to thee or authorize you to commit mass atrocities? Why should there be a need for God to protect just you and favor just you, despite thy eagerness to war, and why not the others? Why must God listen to you and not the rest of the world? Why is God not present in the lives of those innocent people being killed? Why should that God let that child to be killed, to starve, or die of famine? Isn't it worrying to the faithful that politicians, through the wars they bring onto the faithfuls, sometimes make the construct of a divine, caring God DCG hollow? Wars are unjust, especially as humans are born with the abilities and capacities to resolve crises. Isn't that why humans have intellects or large brains? Wars are fought because they want to be fought, not because they must be fought. This is philosophical, not empirical, the wisdom of Zaarrianism. Philosopher, Prince Israel Zaar, February 22nd, 2026. The background video is Trianglerism, Immersive Inventive Art. Hope you enjoy listening. Leave a comment and subscribe.